Alrighty, folks, you know I'm feeling great on a Sunday morning because we're now 3-0 in our last three chairman package picks on my premium site. And I'll explain a little bit more about all that in just a moment. But before we go ahead and get into some more of that, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my Major League Baseball free pick video here today for Sunday, April 21st, 2024. Happy Sunday to you. Hopefully you're having a great weekend. And of course, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks right here on YouTube since 2016. Once again, folks, we are 3-0 in our last three chairman package picks on my premium site. And the good news is I have another chairman package pick going off here today. My chairman membership is a full access, all-inclusive package. It gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. As an added bonus, you also get access to my Chairman podcast, absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. Now, I'm currently 6-0 in my last six crowd pleaser teasers, 2-0 in my last two NBA tier package plays. And finally, folks, we are once again 3-0 in our last three Chairman package picks on my premium site. And the good news is we've got plays going off in all of those memberships here today, and they are all included with your purchase of the Chairman membership. The site is patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, folks, we are going to jump into some free content. We got breakdowns on almost the entire slate. All the games, there's only a couple of them, but the games that are not in the video, they are being featured as premium selections. But our first free play, it's going to be in that White Sox-Phillies game, 1:35 Eastern first pitch. Philadelphia is minus 280, total 7.5. Aaron Nola for Philadelphia, Nick Nastrini for Chicago. And even though Nastrini's looked decent in a handful of innings, he is in search of his first win of the season. Now, the White Sox are currently just 3-17 on the year. Not a lot of wins there. And they're currently dead last in run production. Andrew Vaughn's hitting just 153 at the dish with 24 strikeouts. And Andrew Benintendi's batting just 167 himself. And they're facing Aaron Nola here today, who's looked good in a handful of starts. Nola's got himself an ERA in the threes along with a 1.24 whip. And these Philly pitchers, they've really mowed down their opponents at the bank this year. They're averaging nearly a dozen strikeouts a game on the bump in front of their own fans. Now, 7 out of Philly's last 10 ball games did fall under the total. Meanwhile, the White Sox, they are 5-4 to the under as the official road team. We did it yesterday. We're going to do it again here today. We're going to lean toward Philadelphia, minus 1.5, under 7.5 in the tight window. All right, next game, Astros-Nationals, 1:35 East. Houston's minus $1.85, totals 9 runs. Christian Javier for Houston, Mitchell Parker for Washington. Now, Parker's got an ERA in the threes after a handful of innings. The Nats have also gotten the W in 4 out of their last 7. And they've been a pretty good run line team. They're covering in 60% of their ball games for the entire year. And they're facing a Houston club who's been quite the opposite. The Stros have covered in just 3 of 9 road games, and they've certainly had issues producing runs in those contests. Now, Houston's currently a bottom 10 run-producing team in their travels. Alex Bregman's hitting just 225. Chas McCormick at 241. 3 out of Houston's last 4 road games did get over the posted total. They're also 60% to the over in their last 10 at any location. It can be Washington plus 1.5, over 9. Next game, Angels-Reds, 1:40 p.m. East. Cincinnati's minus $1.40. Totals 9.5. Frankie Montas for Cincinnati. Jose Soriano for Los Angeles. And even though Soriano's given up a handful of runs, he is averaging a strikeout an inning. He also comes into today's contest with a 1.27 whip. And this Angels pitching staff, they are certainly limiting the amount of hits they give up per game. They're actually in the top 5 in the American League in hits allowed per contest. And they're facing a Cincy team who's struggling getting base runners at the Great American Ballpark. They're averaging under 7.5 hits a game at home, and they're striking out an awful lot there. Will Benson's under the Mendoza line right now, and he leads the roster in strikeouts. And Ellie De La Cruz, he's right behind him with 25 strikeouts at the plate. And on the mound, Frankie Montas, he certainly had his ups and downs early in the season here. The righty's got an ERA in the 4s along with a 1.45 whip. When it comes to the injury list, Friedel's still out for the Reds, although it does look like Candelario will suit up here today. Meanwhile, for the Angels, Rendon is questionable with a sore hammy. Stefanich is still out. Now, the Angels saw overs recently with the likes of Tampa and this very Cincy team. Meanwhile, Cincy's currently 8-3 to the over at the Great American Ballpark. Give me the Angels plus 1.5, over 9.5 runs. Next matchup, Athletics, Guardians, 1:40 p.m. East. Cleveland's minus $1.90, total 7.5. Tanner Bybee for Cleveland, Ross Stripling for Oakland. Now, the A's have certainly been a decent run line team on the road this year. They've covered in 5 out of their last 8 away games, and they did pitch well in those contests. Oakland allowed under 3.6 runs per game in those road contests, and even though there's not a lot to nitpick about when it comes to the Guardians, they really haven't pitched all that well at home. Tanner Bybee comes into today's ballgame with an ERA in the high 4s. He also has a whip of 1.71. Now, as a pitching staff, the Guardians do walk a ton of batters at home, and they strike out very few. Now, total-wise, Oakland went 60% to the under in their last 10 ball games. They're also 5-3 to the under as the road team. Give me the A's plus 1.5, under 7.5 runs. Next game, Tigers, Twins, 2:10 Eastern start time. Minnesota's minus $1.20, totals 8 runs. Louis Varland for Minnesota, Casey Mize for Detroit. And out of 15-plus innings of work this year, Casey Mize has a very good 1.17 whip. He's actually yet to record a loss. Now, Detroit's also played their best baseball on the road. They've got a .700 win percentage as the away team, and they did pitch well in those games. They're currently in the top 3 in the National League in runs allowed while traveling. They're taking on a Minnesota club who really stinks at the plate. They've struck out a whole bunch of times this year, and they're averaging under 6.4 hits a game. Carlos Santana's hitting 123. Willie Castro just 148. And even if they could swing it well, they could be in trouble here today with Louis Varland on the hill. The righty's 0-3 on the year with an ERA in the 8s. Now, Correa, Lewis, and Kepler are still out for the Twins. Meanwhile, for the Tigers on the other side, Urshela and Ibanez are still inactive for them. Now, total-wise, the Tigers have gone 60% to the under as the road team. Meanwhile, Minnesota's 5-2 to the under in their own building. Give me the Tigers plus $1, under 8. All right, next matchup, it is going to be Brewers, Cardinals, 2:15 East. St. Louis is minus $1.55, totals 8 runs. Sonny Gray for the Cards, Colin Rea for Milwaukee. Now, Rea's looked good in a couple of appearances here this year. He's 2-0 through 16-plus innings with an ERA in the 2s. And these Milwaukee pitchers have shown excellent command. They're walking just 2.4 batters a game on the road this year. That's best in the major leagues. And speaking of road games, the Brewers have gone 9-2 straight up away from Milwaukee, and they're averaging nearly a dozen hits a game in those road trips. William Contreras, he's hitting .372, and he ranks in the top 10 in both RBI and OPS. Meanwhile, Bryce Terang, he's hitting .323 at the plate himself. They're taking on a St. Louis team who lost 6 out of their last 9, and they've definitely struggled at the dish. The Cards are a bottom 5 run-producing lineup, and in their last 10 gatherings with Milwaukee, they've had all kinds of problems rounding the bases. The Cards have been held to under 2.2 runs a game in those very contests. Now, injury-wise, Carpenter, Edman, and Carlson, they're still out for the Redbirds. Christian Yelich on the IL with a back injury for the Brewers. 5 out of the Cards' last 8 contests at Busch Stadium fell under the total. They're also 14-7 to the under for the entire season. That's good for 67% in that category. Give me the Brewers plus 1.5, under 8. Next game, Marlins Cubs, 2:20 p.m. East. Chicago's minus $1.20, totals 8.5. Kyle Hendricks for Chicago, Edward Cabrera for Miami. And even though Cabrera's looked good, the Marlins have certainly had their issues this season. They're 5-17 on the year already. They've struggled severely at the dish. Miami's a bottom 5 hit producing team. And they're facing a Chicago club who's certainly built for a track meet, at least as of right now. These guys are pounding more runs a game at home than any other roster in baseball. Michael Busch hits .328 at the dish, OPS in the thousands. And out of Chicago's last 8 ball games, they got the W in all of them except for 2. Now the Cubs are 5-4 to the over at Wrigley Field this season. Miami saw overs against the likes of the Giants, Braves, and this very Cubs team. Give me Chicago minus $1.20, over 8.5. Next game, Mariners Rockies game 1. That'll be a 3:10 Eastern start time. Seattle's minus $1.90 on the road here. Totals 10.5. George Kirby for Seattle. Cal Quantrill for Colorado. And as bad as Colorado's been, they do have a knack for covering the run line. They're currently 4-3 against the number at Coors Field. And they get to do it twice there today. And of course, they do get a lot of runners on base in their own stadium. Colorado's a top 3 hit producing team on their own diamond. Ryan McMahon bats .342 and leads the lineup in RBI. Zeke Tovar is hitting .303 himself. And they're taking on a Seattle team who's got a losing record against the run line for the entire season. And these Mariner pitchers are also allowing a bunch of runs in their travels. They're a bottom 5 run-allowing team on the road. And starting pitcher George Kirby, he's been no exception to that. Looks entirely different from last year. Kirby's got an ERA of .664 through a handful of starts. Now, total-wise, Colorado saw overs recently against the likes of the Phillies, Blue Jays, and Diamondbacks. Give me the Rockies plus 1.5, over 10.5 runs in game 1. Next game, Diamondbacks, Giants, 4:05 East. San Francisco's minus $1.20, total 7.5. Jordan Hicks for the Giants, Merrill Kelly for Arizona. Kelly's 2-0 with an ERA in the low 2s. The righty's also punched out 21 batters and has a .93 whip. And even if Kelly has a bad showing here today, the D-backs continue to pound the baseball. They're a top 3 run-producing lineup in the league. Ketel Marte hits .344 with a handful of homers. Lourdes Gurriel, he's 3rd in the big leagues in RBI. And they're facing a Giants team who's struggled producing runs at home. They're in the bottom 5 in the league in runs per contest in their own stadium. And in their last 10 gatherings with Arizona, they were held to under 3.3 runs a game. Now, injury-wise, Perdomo and Thomas are still out for the D-backs. When it comes to the total, San Francisco saw overs recently against the likes of Miami, Tampa Bay, and this very Arizona team. They're also 13-9 to the over for the entire year. Give me the D-backs plus $1, over 7.5. All right, next game, Mets-Dodgers. That'll be a 4:10 Eastern start time. The LA Dodgers are minus $245, totals 9. Tyler Glasnow for the Dodgers, Adrian Hauser for New York. Now the red-hot Mets, they won their last 6 straight, and they are now starting to hit the baseball well. New York's a top 3 hit-producing team on the road this year. Harrison Bader hits .306 at the plate. Brandon Nimmo's got the most RBI. And even though Tyler Glasnow's going to be tough to hit against, the Dodgers certainly have played some lackluster team baseball here recently. They took the loss in 7 out of their last 9. And they've certainly had a horrible time covering the run line. The Dodgers have covered in just 5 of 16 home games this year. That's good for just 31% in that particular category. And even though this Dodger lineup can certainly produce runs, they've had some issues at times making contact with the baseball. LA striking out nearly double-digit times a game in the box. Now, injury-wise, Hayward's still out for the Dodgers. Beatty's day-to-day for New York. When it comes to the total, the Mets went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. They're also 75% to the over as the road team. Now, the Dodgers went 12-4 to the over as the home team themselves. Give the Mets plus 1.5, over 9. Next game, Blue Jays, Padres, 4:10 Eastern start time. San Diego's minus $1.35, totals 8. Joe Musgrove for the Pods, Chris Bassett for Toronto. Bassett's recorded a couple of wins already. He struck out 22 batters. And out of the Blue Jays' last 7 ball games, they got the W in all of them except for 1. And they're taking on a Padres team who lost 4 out of their last 7 themselves. And they do play their worst at home. San Diego's 5-8 at Petco Park. And their pitchers have allowed plenty of runs there. Of course, starting pitcher Joe Musgrove, he's been no exception to that. Musgrove's got himself an ERA in the 6s along with a 1.77 whip. Now, the Pods are currently 7-6 to the over in their own stadium. Meanwhile, Toronto saw overs recently against the likes of the Yankees, Rockies, and Mariners. Give me Toronto plus $1.15, over 8. Next matchup, Rangers Braves, 7:10 Eastern start time. Atlanta's minus $1.60, totals 10. Darius Vines for the Braves, Michael Lorenzen for the Rangers. Now, Lorenzen did throw 5 scoreless innings in his season debut, but even if he ends up struggling here today, the Rangers certainly ain't shy at the dish. These guys are a top 5 hit-producing team in the American League. Adolis Garcia, he's hitting .317 with 20 runs batted in. He's always been a big RBI guy. And I'll tell you what, they're facing a Braves club who's struggled covering the run line at Truist Park. They're just 3-5 against the number in their home games. And their pitchers have been brutal in their own park. They're allowing double-digit hits a game in front of their own fans. Now, Albies and Murphy are still out for Atlanta. When it comes to the total, the Braves are 6-2 to the over as the home team. They're also 63% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Rangers went 6-3 to the over when they bat first. Give me Texas plus 1.5, over 10. With that, folks, we're going to dive into our next and final breakdown for the video. It's going to be in that Mariners-Rockies game. That'll be Game 2, and that's an 8:10 Eastern start time. Now, Seattle's minus $1.50 in Game 2. Total's 11. Looks like Emerson Hancock for the M's, Peter Lambert for the Rockies. Lambert's 2-0 already with an ERA in the low 2s. He's looked pretty good. And once again, even if Lambert struggles, the Rockies have had little problems at the plate in Denver. And they do get to face Emerson Hancock in Game 2 here today. And he's been throwing a good amount of pus this year. He's got an ERA just about in the 8s with a 1.43 whip. Give me Colorado plus 1.5, over 11 in Game 2. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Give me the Phillies minus 1.5, under 7.5 runs. Nationals plus 1.5, over 9. And once again, 3-0. My last 3 chairman package picks on my premium site. The link is in my bio. Angels plus 1.5, over 9.5 runs. Oakland plus 1.5, under 7.5. Tigers plus $1, under 8. Milwaukee plus 1.5, under 8 runs. Cubs minus $1.20, over 8.5. Rockies plus 1.5, over 10.5 in Game 1. Arizona plus $1, over 7.5. Mets plus 1.5, over 9. Blue Jays plus $1.15, over 8. Rangers plus 1.5, over 10. And give me the Rockies plus $1.25, over 11 in Game 2. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium site. Now, if you do end up getting a membership here today on patreon.com/BrockPage, Just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. As an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. That's why I always tell folks, my chairman package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, folks, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site at patreon.com/BrockPage.